Here we have kombu. Kombu is a Japanese dried kelp, which I am steeping in the water. That's the basis for our stock. And this is a Japanese dish. It's going to be a soup with pork meatballs floating in it and various other garnish. And it's a dish that you probably haven't considered, and you will see that this thrifty cooking solution is really quite unique and probably something that you may not have considered before. Um, there we have our ground pork. We grated in some ginger. We grated in some garlic. If you're curious about either of those, we have some Thrifty Cooking Solutions videos for how to process them, how to peel them. I added tofu, broke it up. I added sake and sesame oil, and now soy sauce. That's actually tamari. It has no wheat, just a personal preference. And a little bit of sea salt, and now white pepper. I like a lot of white pepper in this dish, personally. And this is the basis for a meatball. In North America, Western culture, perhaps we use egg to bind together a meatball, egg and some breadcrumb. In this case, we're using the tofu. You have to work it a little bit differently. It's totally pork. There's no beef or any other protein in there other than the tofu. So you have to work it quite a lot. You see the consistency we have here. Beautiful, beautifully bound. This is going to be an excellent meatball. Here we have some hakusai cabbage. Hakusai cabbage is basically Savoy cabbage. You could use Napa cabbage. That's veal stock there. And this is not typical of the Japanese dish, but I had it in my refrigerator as a leftover, made it in my pressure cooker, and I want the nutrition, so I'm going to add it in. It's going to give the soup a little bit more body and some flavor. Here's that cabbage I'm adding in. You could use any cabbage, really. As long as you thinly slice it like we have here, you will produce a great product. Mushrooms. Just some run-of-the-mill button mushrooms sliced off. Bring it to a simmer. Drop it back and skim off any foam that's collected up at the top. This is a technique that you really need to do to ensure that you have nice, tasty stocks. This bacon I'm cutting for fried rice. I'm going to serve this soup with fried rice. It's an excellent accompaniment for this soup. Often when you order fried rice in restaurants, you'll get a little bit of a clear broth soup. So here we are, and I'm just slicing it off. And to be perfectly honest, this bacon is kind of warm, or at least room temperature. If you want to cut bacon, if you have to cut any volume of bacon, and bacon's not that cheap, so unless you make it yourself, you don't want to go through too much of it. But if you have to process it, I suggest putting it on a plate, putting it in your freezer for a few minutes. 2 or 3 slices, whatever you're going to use. And it's going to firm it up, and you'll be able to cut through it really, really quickly. Don't leave it in there too long. You'll have frozen pieces, but a few minutes and it'll be perfect for you. Here is our soup, and all we're going to do is form beautiful, uniform meatballs and poach them in our soup. And as we poach them, they're going to emit or produce their own flavor, create their own stock, and we'll have a nice sort of light pork stock. I'm only going to simmer the meatballs in there, or I should say poach them in there for maybe half an hour, as long as it takes for them to be cooked. But that's still going to add some flavor to the dish. So pay very close attention to how we form the meatball. You got to get in the habit, or you've got to get the sort of feel of it, grabbing exactly the same amount of the mixture each time, and then working it to a consistency that is actually going to stay together. If you don't work it enough, it's going to break apart. If you work it too much, depending on the type of mixture you have, you may make it quite tough. However, in this case, because we've used tofu and pork, it's quite difficult to actually make this tough. You'll find that this is a very forgiving meatball mixture, much more than a Western conventional hamburger mixture would be using breadcrumb and egg. So knock yourself out with this one. It's a really good dish, and it's extraordinarily thrifty. Ground pork is very cheap right now, and this is early 2010, just about March now, and I'm astonished at how cheap the pork prices are, and also the beef prices, but pork especially. So take advantage of it, and I would stock up on ground pork for dishes like this, and all sorts of other great dishes that we'll show you how to produce here on our Thrifty Cooking Solutions, Thrift Culture Now's YouTube channel. So I continue to poach them, and here we have it. These are cooked. These are ready to go. You just pick one out and cut it in half. See if it's cooked inside. That's how you confirm. That's how you confirm. That's how you learn how things are cooked, by testing them, by tasting them, and by cutting into them. And once you do that a few times, you get the feel of it, and eventually you can just touch it, and you know exactly whether or not it's cooked. I'm placing it in this bowl because I want to serve it up nicely for my guests. So, I make a nice pile of the meatballs, and then I will pour my soup on top. There's the kombu. Kombu actually, some people may cast it aside, but go ahead and eat it. You paid for it. Why waste it? It's extremely healthy. Before you know it, you make this dish enough, your kids will be fighting over the piece of kombu. And I top it up with my soup stock. You may not be able to fit it all in the bowl, but that doesn't matter. Use it, and anything you have that's left over, add it into another soup, a new soup. Always get in the habit of that. And here we have our dish. And there's this fried rice. Beautiful, thrifty meal. Very sophisticated. Your guests are going to love it.